Thank you. I now call the member for Londonderry.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. I begin this evening by acknowledging the Gadigal people of the Eora Nation, and I pay my respects to their elders, past and present. I also acknowledge the Darug people, whose ancestors walked the lands on which now sits the electorate of Londonderry. Madam Speaker, it is an honour beyond compare to be in this historic chamber, in the oldest parliament in Australia, to represent the people of my community. In December 2013, I wasn't long Labor's candidate in the upcoming election. I was getting out and about, knocking on doors, meeting local residents and campaigning on the issues. In the suburb of Wayland, one day, I met a young mother. She had recently moved into a house owned by Housing New South Wales. She had 2 young children. Like so many other properties owned by the department, the house next door had been vacated. But it had been vacant for such a lengthy period of time that it had been completely destroyed. Vacant for well over 6 months, while tens of thousands of families wait on the list. To add insult to injury, when she'd moved in, this young mum, she'd found syringes in her backyard where her children wanted to run and play, as every young child should have the opportunity to do. But when she contacted that department seeking help, they actually asked her to clean it up. What I didn't know then was how many times I would see and hear different variations of this same story. Time after time, people being left on their own to fend for themselves, forgotten. Madam Speaker, after knocking on doors every single day for over 17 months, I come to this place not on my own. I come with thousands and thousands of personal stories, just like that one, told to me by the people of my wonderful community, honest, passionate and generous. They have placed their faith in me to fight for their issues in this, the epicentre of government in this nation's first state. And now it's time for me to repay their trust. Tonight is the first of many occasions on which I will be rising to my feet to champion their cause. Before I really begin, I want to acknowledge previous members for Londonderry and its various iterations, suburbs of which were sometimes in electorates called Mulgoa, Nepean or St Mary's. To Alan Sheeran, I know how hard you worked for the community. To 2 of my personal mentors, Diane Beamer and Faye Lopo, I am so proud to follow in your footsteps as strong women from our area who forged their careers fighting for the western suburbs of Sydney. And last year, we said goodbye to our beloved Ron Muirlock, a giant of our region. After I ran in the 2011 election, he sent me a handwritten note. It said, "Never give up, never give in, and keep fighting." Thank you, Ron. I took your advice. Most especially, I want to acknowledge a man that I didn't really know, the late Jim Anderson. 12 years after his tragic passing on election day in 2003, people still talk to me at their front door about the incredible local member he was. All over the electorate there are memories of him, signs with his name on parks and at schools. I didn't know you, Jim, but I can think of no better person to look up to. In the 1970s, the future Labor Prime Minister of Australia, Bob Hawke, led the Australian Council of Trade Unions. Legend has it that he would inspire large crowds of people at rallies on issues affecting the daily lives of working people, motivating whole generations of people to take action. My grandfather, Les, was in these audiences a few times at Bankstown Town Hall with his daughter, my mother. He was a working man, a union man, and a Labor man. He died a short time before I too felt a pull towards an involvement in politics to pursue change. Over the years, my mother has often commented to me that he would have loved to have been with me, making a difference, getting stuck into the issues. I suppose it would have been incomprehensible to him at the time, at those rallies, that his daughter's daughter would be a Labor Member of Parliament 45 years on. Well, maybe it's in my blood, but there's no wonder that I gravitated towards Labor when that interest first sparked. In fact, when I first told my mother, she was the one that suggested I join the Labor Party, and she drove me to the local campaign office. They told me Kim Beazley was coming to Werrington the next day. I rang my English teacher and took the day off school. Thank you, Mrs. Elborough. That school had a strong emphasis on fighting for social justice, and I personally thank them for that. What I believed then, and what I believe now more than ever, is that Labor is the party of social justice. Yeah. The party of opportunity. Labor brought us Medicare, compulsory superannuation, the reformist governments of Rann and Carr. In 2015, Labor now has a challenging but an essential responsibility in this Parliament on behalf of the people of New South Wales. Every one of those 499 days that I campaigned to come to this place, I became more and more convinced that government has a powerful role to play in improving people's lives. The provision of quality healthcare, access to educational opportunities that are not based on postcode or income, and a helping hand to those who need it most. These are all ways that state government can and should make impact. I am a child of the western suburbs of Sydney. Like so many others of their generation, when my parents were newly married, they set up their first home in this city's booming outskirts. For them, it was Morris Street, St Mary's. The newly drawn electorate of Londonderry is a diverse one, from the semi-rural northern suburbs around Londonderry, Berkshire Park and Llandialo, some without town water, to the burgeoning new releases of Jordan Springs and Ropes Crossing, two of the fastest growing suburbs in New South Wales. There are suburbs around Werrington County and Cambridge Park that have been there a little bit longer, and some, like St Mary's, that have been there for some considerable time indeed. This is a town steeped in the stories of early Australian history, where a teacher from St Mary's Public School, Peter Dodds McCormick, wrote a patriotic song that would one day become known as the Australian National Anthem. In the east, the towns around Mount Druitt are home to some of the most generous and welcoming people that I've ever met. People I am now proud to call my friends, with a pride in their suburbs and their communities that runs so deep. I am grateful every day that my parents chose to raise my sister and I in the western suburbs, where I'm now bringing up my own son. It's a place where parents will work 2 or 3 jobs for a better life for their children, where small business owners strive to succeed, but somewhere that is consistently denied its fair share. Since 2008, I've been working to represent this community in which I've grown up as a councillor on the Penrith Council. I've loved every day that I've worked with community groups and residents to improve the impact of local government on our area. I am most proud of my work with the local community in advocating against this government's plans to transport radioactive waste from Hunters Hill to the western suburbs, an issue still hanging over our heads after a 4-year battle. It's exactly the sort of reason why I wanted to do the same in here, to fight for a better deal for us in the West. They say that education is the great equaliser, the one mechanism that truly has the power to circumvent generations of poverty, disadvantage and injustice. But shockingly, in 2015, only half of all public schools in Western Sydney even have any air conditioning in their classrooms. This means that children at schools in suburbs like Colleton and Wilmot swelter in temperatures over 40 degrees in the middle of boiling hot Western Sydney summers. Surely we cannot expect our children to be learning productively in these environments or forcing our teachers to work in these conditions. As a mother, this angers me. As a Member of Parliament, it furthers my resolve. I put the Minister for Education on notice that this will be a personal priority of mine. 1 in 11 Australians call Western Sydney home, the third largest regional economy in Australia. Suburbs like Caddens, Claremont Meadows, Jordan Springs and Ropes Crossing are rapidly expanding. This growth must be met with investment in local infrastructure. It's not good enough for the government to plan for the construction of primary schools in suburbs like Jordan Springs to begin 5 years from now, when 2,000 homes have already been sold and there are plans for many more. It's outrageous that residents living in suburbs like Claremont Meadows are promised recreational parks that remain unfunded decades on. And while state government place growth on targets on regions like Penrith to expand, we are left lobbying for multi-million-dollar hospital redevelopments because mothers are being forced to have babies in emergency department car parks. Significant upgrades must urgently take place at Nepean, and the dramatic defunding of Mount Druitt Hospital must cease immediately. Governments make the mistake of forgetting about Mount Druitt Hospital, but we cannot deny people health care based on where they live. In areas where many people do not have access to a car, people are presenting at their local hospital in good faith, only being told to go to another instead. Locals have a right to their local hospital. The housing affordability crisis facing New South Wales and Sydney more specifically is palpably felt most in Western Sydney. With property prices skyrocketing, parents question whether their children will ever be able to afford that great Australian dream, ownership of their own home. This challenge is significant, but it has to be addressed. Young families need government to assist them with getting their foot in that door, including with stamp duty. One of the biggest challenges facing the western suburbs of Sydney lies in the ever-increasing employment deficit. It's just too large. Well, there's no arguing that congestion on our arterial motorways like the M4 must be urgently addressed. Governments have to look at long-term, strategic ways to address the problem. Every single day, mums and dads from suburbs like Werrington Downs, they get in their cars and they travel east for the only work that can pay their mortgage and support their families. Their trip can take up to 3 hours each way, and by the time they get home at night, their children are already tucked in bed and fast asleep. This has devastating impacts on families. Governments must get serious about their role in encouraging business to invest in moving to the new CBDs like Penrith and Blacktown. This can start by government setting the example and moving their own departments in a westerly direction. The recent election campaign has left many impacts on me, but the most heartbreaking has been the way my eyes have been opened up about the true state of public housing in New South Wales. My opening story, only the tip of a very large iceberg. There are more than 120,000 people lingering on the waiting list. There's often a 2-year wait for emergency housing. Waiting a decade for urgent maintenance is unacceptably commonplace. And I'm talking about serious safety concerns. Windows with no glass panes, collapsing walls, holes in floors. The sad reality is that there is a maintenance backlog of more than $300 million. The Auditor-General found that in 2012-13, the government delayed $85 million worth of scheduled maintenance work because of savage budget cuts. Something needs to urgently be done. Every day, people's lives are being impacted by the lack of action. They are living in substandard conditions. We are failing this test. These decisions are difficult, but they have to be taken. New housing stock, a better way to address maintenance, and a reinvestment in areas that have been forgotten. People simply deserve better than this. The things that I have seen with my own eyes cannot simply be unseen. I cannot have listened to so many of these stories and now stand here and fail to act. So I intend to use the opportunity my community has given me to advocate for change. Election victories occur because of teams, not individuals. No one can knock on 20,000 doors and make 35,000 phone calls alone. I have many, many people to thank, and I'm so happy that a great number of them are here tonight. To the loyal and passionate members of the Labor Party in Londonderry, thank you for embracing me and fighting alongside me every day of a very, very long campaign. Thank you for the early mornings at train stations and for the mammoth effort every weekend. To Londonderry SEC, led by Peter Clapham and Brad Bunting. To Andrew Peach, Derek Margerison, Joe Fisher, Bengt Fredrickson, David Bentham, Tony Wargar, Gay and Michael Maskell, Tony and Celine Smullen, Bill and Linda Armstrong, Rika Corler, Sophie Young, Ian and Shirley Watt, Samara Phillips, Lee Russell, Kath Presty, Reed Joseph, Mark Phillips, Mark O'Toole, Ben Bryan and Kanwal Dillon. I am forever grateful for your effort. To Lois Fisher, thank you for coming on board in my electorate office and bringing your years of experience to the team. To my friend and constant source of advice, I call him the Mayor of Mount Druitt, Blacktown Councillor Charlie Lowles. Thank you. To my mate and confidant, the reassuring voice on the end of the phone, Penrith Councillor John Fane. I couldn't have done it without you. I want to say a special thank you to the groups in our community who I've come to know over the past 2 years, for always making me aware of all of your concerns and for the amazing work you do in giving a voice to so many people in our areas. To Georgie McCann and Di Malavi and the Tregear Public School PNC, Hayley Brown and the Bennett Road Public School PNC, Ivy Robertson and the Wayland Community Action Group, Petter Kennedy and the Wilmot Community Group, the Jordan Springs Residents Group, to the Stop the Orbital and Rail Corridor Group, and to the best friend that Ropes Crossing ever had, Derek Margerison. To my friends in the Filipino community, to the Philippine Language and Cultural Association of Australia, to Rissa McInnes, and even to the Prue car dancers. Maraming salamat po. To my friends in the subcontinent community, thank you also. My friends who I worked with at MS Australia, my experience there taught me so much about what people can achieve against serious odds. To the most professional campaigners in the country, the team at New South Wales Labor, thank you to Jamie Clements, Kayla Manane and David Latham for your constant support. To my organiser, Dom Offner, you are probably the most talented campaigner in the country and you got me through the campaign. Thank you. To my friends in the union movement, I will always be proud of our connection, and I'm so proud to have campaigned alongside you in defence of our public assets. To Tony Sheldon, Michael Aird, and all my friends at the TWU, Bob Nanther, Alex Clarsons, and the RTBU, Gerard Hayes and the HSU, Russ Collison and the AWU, Graham Kelly and the USU. To Mark Lennon, Mary Yeager, and the team at Unions New South Wales for that amazing campaign. To Mary Court and the ever-enthusiastic team at Penrith Valley Community Unions, thank you. My new colleagues, the shadow ministers of the Labor opposition, thank you. Particular thanks must go to Sophie Kotsis, Walt Secord, Adam Searle, Ryan Park and Guy Zangari. Most of all, thank you to the Leader of the Opposition, Luke Foley, for your personal support of me. For standing with me for 4 years, arguing against the transfer of that radioactive waste. I have so much confidence in you and your intelligent and compassionate vision for New South Wales. I am so proud to be part of the team. People sometimes say to me, if you want a friend in politics, get a dog. I, however, am not of that opinion. Thank you to all the lifelong friends I've made from our time way back in Young Labor. Bob Nanther and Sally Deans, Gerard Gilchrist and Elizabeth Scully, Sam Crosby and Rose Jackson, Senator Sam Dastyari and his wife Helen, and Daniel Mookie and Tamsin Lloyd. I'm so proud that Daniel has been appointed to the other place today. We've all had some great times together and always supported each other. And to my campaign team, affectionately self-titled as the Prue Crew. Your enthusiasm, dedication and commitment will be the stuff of legends. To the best campaign director in New South Wales, Aaron Duke. What an operation. To my outstanding volunteer coordinator, Paul Mills, and to Geith Geeganagay, Luke Heffernan, Lizzie Green, Liam Rankin, Sean Sotheran, Michael Elliott, Wiatadi Kartika, Nick and Daniel Harrison, Ashley Gardner, Jeff Brown, Megan Sturgis, Malathi Geeganagay and Corey Matthews. I'm so proud of you all. Please know that nothing you ever did went unnoticed by me. Not the freezing cold train stations or the boiling days door knocking. The Labor Party in Western Sydney has a very bright future in you. To the two people who set up their home in Morris Street in 1977, my parents. Words could never express my gratitude for what you have done for me. Your sacrifices have been many. You've supported me every single day, not only during the campaign, but from that very first day when I joined the Labor Party as a teenager with a burning desire for the power of government to change people's lives. You are a shining example of the love and the commitment of parenthood. My victory is also yours. To the most important person in my life, who I hope will one day read this speech, my Max. When you were born, one of my friends remarked that you would make my politics personal. How right she was. You inspire me in ways you will never know. Every day I will strive to make the society you and your generation inherit a better place, a fairer place, a place where people do not get left behind. Each and every day that I have this job will be a true honour, a privilege that comes with a heavy responsibility. To the people of Londonderry, I say that each and every one of those days I will be fighting as hard as I can for you in this place, because that's exactly what you deserve. Thank you.
Do you know this?